Hello and welcome to another Blender cookie tutorial. This is David Ward, and in this tutorial I'm going to be going over rigging techniques with the little alien guy. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and open my little alien guy, and one thing you'll notice right away is that since I put the textures and everything on there in 2.49 and saved it, it kept the layout, that 2.49 that I had set up in there. So while we can still work with it this way, but if you really want to get to learn the new 2.5 interface, it's a good idea to stick with it as much as we can. So let's just go File, New, and what we're going to do is we're going to append that file to a new one, and looks like I've already got that set up. Actually, let's go up some. Here we go. And we're going to select, you just go to wherever it is your file is, and you select it. Cycloptic Alien 1, and then you go Scene and click on that scene, and then you link append from library. And you don't see anything on screen at first, but if you go up here where it says Scene and you click on that and it drops down, you'll see Scene.001. It named it .001 because the new file automatically was named Scene, so it automatically renamed it. So just click on that, and there you see our little alien guy, but we don't have to worry about the interface changes that we had in 2.49. So let's go ahead and go back to that first scene. Just go ahead and delete it out because we don't need it anymore. And just to be neat, nice and neat, just go ahead and name that scene so it's the default scene. And I'm going to go ahead and take out that grid floor and the green and red lines there. You just go View, Properties, right there, or you can just hit N on your keypad and scroll up where it says display, just turn off grid floor, x-axis, y-axis, and just go ahead and hit N, and it knocks it back away. Okay, let's get started on the rigging of this guy. The rigging is, for the most part, the same as it was in 2.49 and below. There's a few name changes and a few technique changes, usage changes, but for the most part, it's pretty well the same. So let's put the cursor right in the middle where his hip is going to start, where his spine will start. The tip of his spine, called the coccyx, if anyone is interested in knowing the little teeny tiny bone at the end of your spine. I fell down some stairs once and bruised mine, and it was very painful to sit down for about 3 months. Anyways, spacebar. And as I've mentioned before, in previous versions of Blender, you hit spacebar, it brings up the Add menu. Now it brings up this Search menu, which is good, bad, I don't know, it's just different. But what you can do now is, instead of mousing down to select anything, you just start typing it. And since I want to add an armature, I just start typing armature. And it automatically narrows the search down to Add Armature. Just hit Enter, boom, there it is. And pop into edit mode, grab the tip of it, and just move it around. We're going to move it way up here to the top of his head. You know what? Let's go ahead and move it all the way up to his eyeball. And let's grab it, and we're going to hit W, subdivide. And we want more than just the one, because we're going to have like one here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total bones. So we're going to have one for the eye stalk, one for the head, neck, chest, spine, and hips. So number of cuts is going to be 7 cuts. Okay, so let's start arranging this. Grab that center, move it up there. Move this up to there. This about where his neck is going to sit. It's kind of hard to see, isn't it? You know what? Let's pop in back out of edit mode, or excuse me, out of wireframe view. I guess we're still in edit mode, but I can't see the armature anymore, so what I want to do is go over to right here, the little cube object button, and you want to scroll up a little bit, and right here in display, click on X-ray, and that'll allow you to see it through the model. No matter which way you rotate it, you can still see that armature. Pop back into side view, and let's see. Looks like I might have too many bones. Let's see. I think I wanted another bone up here for some reason. I can't think of what. Maybe I wanted to make that 2 bones right there instead of just one big one. Yeah, let's do that. And the chest bone. One thing I think that 2.5 is coming out with, it's not in this original version that you might have downloaded, but it has an armature builder, basically. Like you can load in a custom-made armature already that'll have all your parts that you need. You just have to set up all the constraints and everything. So that'll be nice and handy. But for now, we'll just build one from scratch. Right now we're looking at octahedral view, but I want to look at it in B-bone view. So you go right here to Object Data, and right here under Display, go to B-bones, and that makes it nice and square. And then also on things like the neck and the spine, if we go to the Bone button, click the Deform, we can up the segments. You can't see them now because we're in edit mode, but if we tab out, you can see it's adding extra segments. Let's go ahead and turn that to pose mode. So now the neck has 4 different segments. So if we grab the head, rotate it around, the neck has a gradual turn along with the head. So it's a lot more natural. And let's do the same thing on the spine. Segments. I usually like to put about 5 or 6. We'll go with 6 on this one. Okay, so now if you move the chest around, the spine gradually turns with it. It makes for nicer deformations of the mesh when you put the segments in there, especially on things that, bones that aren't stock still, stock stiff. Helps the movement look more realistic. So, anyways, let's go ahead and start naming these guys. Actually, let's add some segments to these bones up here as well, just so there's a nicer curve when you rotate his eyeball around. So, okay, so let's go ahead and name these bones because we're going to need to name them. It's very important. It'll work if you don't, but it makes for a lot easier animation and posing if the bones have names, because you can actually copy. If there's a part where you want to pose him where he's, I don't know, flexing both arms at the same time, you can do it. You can pose just the one arm and then copy the pose over to the left side or to the right side, whichever side that you happen to need to copy it to. And the only way you can do that is if you name them left and right. So anyways, you'll see. So we got the eye bone selected, so let's just name that eye. Okay. And then this will be, you know what, I don't really think we do need the 2 bones right there. So let's, oops, escape out of there. Go to side view, tab back in edit view, and see if we can do this here. Just hit X and delete the selected bone. And it deletes it out, but it still keeps the hierarchy. This bone is still connected to this bone, even though the other bone's gone. So let's get them connected. So let's select the tip of that right there. Shift S brings up your snap submenu, and we're going to go cursor to selected. So put your 3D cursor right there on that thing that's selected. And now we grab this one, Shift S, and we say selected to cursor, and it puts that right there. And so now, oh, actually, we need to turn on connected also for this guy. Connected. There we go. So now we've got a nice bone that curves. Since we put segments on it, it curves it nice and naturally. So, okay. So back to the naming. This is going to be eye stalk. I like to put capitals between words or underscores. Let's do that. Underscore eye space underscore stalk. So I'm sure you could put spaces, but it's just more clean as far as coding and things like that goes. I'm a web developer by trade, so I like to name things that are web friendly. Anyways, I guess that doesn't make a big difference here, but when in Rome. Anyways, okay, so this is head, and this is going to be neck. This will be, I guess we'll call it rib cage. Okay, and then this will be spine. And finally, hips. Actually, I guess that would be pelvic bone, the pelvis bone, but hips will work fine. Okay, now, just to add some variation, let's pop into edit mode, and let's make the head bone Alt-S, makes it a little fatter, so we can kind of distinguish between some of these things. And let's make the neck bone a little skinnier. Alt-S, and just drag your mouse and it makes it bigger or smaller. And then Alt-S. So that's nice, see? Nice variation between the bones so you can kind of see a little better what it is going to be controlling. Okay, so let's start on the arms now. Let's put the cursor right there about where, let's put it over where his shoulder blade would start. Probably about right there. Let's go side view. 3 on your numpad for those just joining us. 7 on your numpad to go to top view, and let's bring it back to probably about right there. Is that about right? Yeah, that looks good. Okay, now also you hit spacebar, brings up that, so you can just do bone, but it brings up a few more choices than I would like. So let's try add bone group. That's not going to work. Let's do this. Add. Oh, because I'm not in edit mode, that's why. Okay, now let's see. Bone. Spell it right. There we go. First choice. And you can also see that it's Shift A. So we'll start using Shift A from now on. So just grab the tip, move it down to in between the 2 fingers. And that's about right. So let's go ahead and subdivide this. W, subdivide. And let's see, how many are we going to need? We're shoulder blade, 1, upper arm 2, forearm 3, hand 4. So we'll need 4 total bones. So that means we'll need 3 cuts. So there we go. Just grab that, move it up there. Move this to where the elbow would go. This to the wrist. Okay, just go to top view. Kind of line it up this way too. And just grab that whole hand bone there. Yes. And I need to rotate that so it's more lined up correctly with the way the hand is facing. So Control R rotates it. If you just hit R, it rotates the whole thing. But if you hit Control R, it just rotates it along its middle, I guess you could say. So about like that. Maybe a little too much. Let's go back some. There we go. That'll work, I guess. Okay. And you know what? Let's do the same thing we did with the spine area. Just make this forearm a little bit bigger. Maybe the shoulder blade a little bit bigger too. So now we tab out. You can see. Nice variation. You can also just replace the bones with bone shapes, but if you don't feel like doing that, it takes a little time because you got to make each and every shape, and it gets a little tedious sometimes. But this way will help, so you don't have to do that. Okay, now let's make the fingers. Let's put the cursor right there, and wow, that's right there about where it needs to be. So what was it? Shift A. Oops, make sure you're in edit mode. Shift A. All right, there it is. Let's grab that, move it down to the tip of the finger. The rig is looking nice, but I'm having problems lining things up where I need to. So let's do this. Grab one of the bones, and we'll go over here to display. I think this is the right thing. Wireframe? No, that's not right. It must be up on this one. Go to Object Data, and is there a display right here? Okay, that's not it. Perhaps this one. It'll be Object. And yes, okay. Display type. Right now it says Shade, which if you make the window bigger, it's shaded. So let's click on that, and we want to go wire. So there we go. Now we can see through it. Okay, and we tab into edit mode. And let's grab the finger. Now we can set it up a little easier. So let's grab that tip, move it down to the tip of the finger. And as you know, human fingers have 3 joints on each one. Let's go ahead and rotate that just a little bit. But I don't want to put 3 joints. I just want to put 2. So let's subdivide that once. And if you don't change any of these numbers, it'll just do it once. If you like click forward and back, it'll go ahead and put the 2 cuts that it says default, or you can just click back in one. So anyways, you don't have to use the numbers if you just want to do it once. Okay, so we'll get the finger bones lined up. There we go. Grab this, and let's go to like the top of the hand view. It's not going to be the top of the scene view, but the back of the hand, I guess you could say. Shift D duplicates. Just hit that on your keyboard and just move your mouse over. And now we'll just hit R, just normal R, and rotate it around. Kind of get that to where it needs to go. Rotate that back. There we go. And we need to move it back some. Grab those. Okay, that looks about right. And let's do it one more time for the thumb. Grab those. Now, it looks like on a thumb we might be able to put 3 joints, because it's kind of opposite on a human hand. The thumb has basically 2, and then the fingers have 3. I'm doing it. The opposite on this guy. He's an alien. You know, he can have whatever strange physiology he wants. Shift D duplicates. And let's rotate it around so we can put it on the thumb. Move this down there. There. Grab that, Control R. Kind of gets a weird rotation if you just rotate it normally. So you can Control R and you can line it back up the way it needs to. Control R. Normally, I like to play with this with the axis turned on so you can see exactly which way it's facing. However, I don't know if it's just not been included yet or what, but right now if you turn on axis, it's right here in the display, same as the wireframe. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong place, but this is the only place I've been able to find it. Turn on axis. It just turns on the axis for the whole armature rather than each individual bone like it used to. So that makes for a little more difficulty in setting this up, but maybe in the future when the final version is released, it'll be all fixed up. I'm sure it will. Those developers are pretty cool guys. So, anyways, Control R. Let's get this all lined up the way we can. There. And yeah, let's go ahead and subdivide this once. Joint in there. A little crooked. Okay. And you know what? Why not? Let's make the tips of them a little bigger. Alt-S makes them a little bigger. So, there we go. Okay, now the tedious part. We gotta name this. So let's grab that. Go up here. It's gonna be shoulder blade.L. The .L stands for left because it's on his left side, and that's what I was mentioning earlier. When you want to copy poses from left to right, that's what the .L does. And you got to make sure it's all uniform. If you go dot lowercase l, you got to name them all dot lowercase l, or dot uppercase all dot uppercase, and so on and so forth. I name them dot uppercase, but that's just my preference. I don't think it has to be an uppercase. But anyways, let's keep going. This is going to be upper arm dot L. This will be forearm dot L. Hand dot L. And this will be index. Let's call it fing for finger underscore index. Underscore S for start dot L. You can name it whatever you want, whatever makes sense to you. But if there's going to be someone else working with your model, it's a good idea to go ahead and name it something intuitive. So let's grab this, and it's going to be fing underscore index underscore T for tip dot L. Hopefully that's understandable to most people. Same thing on this one. Fing underscore pinky underscore S dot L. And you know what? Quick little trick. If you don't want to type out everything like that, just mouse over and you can hit Control C and it'll copy that name. Click on that, mouse over, Control V, pastes it in there. Then you just have to change a couple of things. S to T for tip, and get rid of the .001 that it plugs in because this one's already named the same thing. So, and let's go ahead and paste this in. We'll just rename this. Instead of pinky, it will say thumb. Start. Take off that 002. Done. And grab this one. Actually, let's go ahead and copy this name. Paste it there. And since this is a middle, let's just put an M. Get rid of the 001. So fing thumb middle dot L. since the others just had a start and a tip, that one needed another character for middle. Okay. Okay, all set? All set. Okay, tab back in edit mode. And let's go ahead and start building the leg. Just put the mouse cursor right, or the 3D cursor right there where the thigh will start. Right there. Front view. Space, add a bone. Since it was already typed in, it was already the top selection from earlier. And subdivide this. Up forward there. Okay, now this weird little foot rig that you might have seen in one of my tutorials before. I'll go ahead and let me rotate the leg bone, then I'll go into rotate it so it's facing the same way that the model is facing. Just move that knee over. There we go. Okay. So what I want to do with this leg bone, or this foot bone, is I want it to be able to rotate like that, like he's tapping his foot. And then I also want it to be able to rotate like he's standing up on his toes. So I need to have two axes of rotation. And the way you do that is, let's put the cursor right about where the balls of his feet would be. Right there. Side view, too high. Let's go right there. Okay. And let's Shift A, add a bone. And drag it down. Let's pop back into pose mode and see where it's... Okay, that'll work. Now let's move the tip of it to where it's going to line up with the bottom of his leg. Actually, what we can do, so it's perfectly lined up, grab the bottom of the leg, right? Shift S, like we did before, cursor to selected. Grab the end of the foot, Shift S, selected to cursor. And it puts it right on there. Perfect. Okay, so now, since we got the cursor right there, let's go ahead and add a couple of more bones. Shift A, let's drag that down, and let's name this, let's name it ankle.L. And let's go ahead and add one more. Shift A, grab this down, and we'll name this IK foot.L. IK stands for inverse kinematics, which you'll be using a lot of when you do rigs like this. Let's go ahead and rotate those. Actually, just grab the tip of them. I'm a little leery about rotating since I can't see my axes, so I just rotate along its center or just grab the tip of it and move it. Okay, now let's add the toes on there. Let's grab that, Shift S, cursor to selected. And let's Shift A. I went and added in there. Since we're looking at it from the top view, it didn't look like it did much, but let's just put it out there like so. And go to side view, grab the tip of it, bring it down. And one quick trick you can do, so you don't have to worry about trying to rotate it properly, just Control N on your keyboard, and it recalculates the roll. So you want the Z-axis to be pointing up. So just Control N right there. Click on that one. There you go. Sorry, I just bumped the microphone. And just move that. And just move this one to line up a little better. And just grab that, Shift D, move it over about right there, and then move that guy in about right there. Okay, so now we got our foot bones that we need. And you know what, since I went ahead and put those IK bones, before I go any further, let's go ahead and rename. Very important. It's going to be thigh.L, shin.L, okay. And since I named this one already, ankle.L, IK foot.L, this is going to be foot.L. And then this will be toe underscore big.L. And toe underscore little.L. Okay, now I was about to jump on. We got an IK foot bone down here, so we also need an IK hand bone right here. So let's just grab the hand, the original hand bone, and let's Shift D, duplicate that, and let's scale it up some. And let's name it up here, take off the .001, and put IK in front of it. I like the IK underscore. Did I do that on the foot? Keep everything uniform. IK underscore. There we go. Okay, now we need to set up some parents. The shoulder blade needs to be parented to the rib cage so it moves along with it. So just grab the shoulder blade first and then the rib cage second. Control P. And we don't want it to be connected because then it'll pop it to the base of the bone. So just keep the offset. Same thing on the leg. Actually, one more controller thing I need to set up. Let's grab the hip bone. But okay, let me show you. Go into back into edit mode, or excuse me, pose mode. And the way the hip bone is set right now, its rotation is at the bottom. So if you rotate it, it's going to rotate at the bottom, which is not very natural. It needs to rotate at the top, so like the hips can swing, or you know, like when he walks, he can lift it up, and the thighs will come up, so on and so forth. So what we have to do here, go into edit mode. We're going to duplicate that bone, Shift D, and just click, and we're going to Alt S, scale it down, and let's name it. It says hips 001. Let's name it. Oh, I don't know. Let's just say controller underscore hips. Hips controller hips. Whatever. Doesn't really matter what you name it. Okay, so what we're going to do is grab the original hips bone, and we're going to hit W, switch direction. And you can see it pops the bigger selected tip at the top of it. So now we go into pose mode and we rotate it. It's going to rotate around the top of it, which is what we want. However, nothing else is following along with it. So what we need to do is back into edit mode, grab the controller bone, which is really a bad name for it because it's not really controlling anything. The other bone's controlling it. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. So shift, grab that bone first, then shift select the original bone, Control P to parent it, and we're going to keep the offset. So now, tab back into pose mode, we grab the big bone, rotate it. It's going to rotate the controller bone with it, which is what we want. However, we want it to be attached to the spine. So what we got to do is make sure that the spine bone is parented to the controller bone. So just select that, shift select the controller bone, Control P, and this time we want it to be connected. So there we go. So now when we rotate this, it's going to rotate the whole top. However, that's not a good hip swing now, is it? Because the spine will need to stay in place. The way you tell it to do that, in previous versions of rigging, it was called a hinge bone. But I guess either they've renamed it or it's not been implemented yet. But what you have to do now is go, I believe, to the bone here. And right here under Relations, you want to uncheck Inherit Rotation of the Parent Bone. So just check that off. And now, there you go. Now you can swing those hips around, whatever. And let's go ahead and parent the thigh bone to that. Keep the offset. There we go. Tap back. So now, he's swinging them hips. Pretty cool feature there. And one other thing that's nice to do is that some bones that don't need to be inheriting the rotation, like the chest bone, turn that off. Head bone, turn that off. And the shoulder bone, turn that off. So now, we can rotate the chest, and the head stays still, and the hands will stay still. Rotate that. So there you go. Now, let's go ahead and set up some IK chains. Actually, I need to worry about parenting on the feet here. Normally, you would think that the toes would be parented to the foot. But if you do that and you rotate the foot like so, the bones will follow it and rotate down. We don't want that. We want them to stay flat. So if he goes up on the balls of his feet, his toes stay put, and his foot raises up. So what we got to do is select those two toe bones. Just hold down Shift, select both of them, and then select the IK foot bone, and we're going to go Control P. Keep the offset. Now, the way I did this with multiple things, instead of it like making this the parent of this and so on and so forth, in a group that you select, and then you parent, it's always the last bone that you select that gets to be the parent. All the other bones that selected previous to that are the children bones. So since I selected both of these and then this one last, Control P, this bone became a parent and these two bones became the children. So now if I rotate that, nothing happens. But if I rotate this, the toes go up. Okay. So let's see here. How else am I supposed to rig this up? I believe this needs to be parented to the... Forgive my memory here, it's a little rusty. It's been a little while since I built a rig like this. But you know what, let's go ahead and just trial and error. Grab the shin bone, and then grab the IK foot bone, and we're going to Control-Alt-C. Okay, I guess that keyboard shortcut does not work anymore, but that's no big deal. Grab this, and going to the object constraints, is that right? No. Okay. One thing, this menu is a little small. Of course, my Blender's window is a little smaller than my total screen. I got a little bit bigger screen. Anyways, this is a constraints, but since we're in the armature, we have to go over to bone constraints. So if you click on this one and try to add a constraint to it, like we're inverse kinematics, it goes boop, error. Constraint can only be added to bones, which it is a bone, but that's because this is for other objects. So you got to go to bone constraints. There you go. Inverse kinematics. Boom, pops it right on there. And you want to change the chain length to 2 because actually, yeah, because the tip of it goes to the next segment of the bone. So this would be 1 chain length, and this would be 2. So there we go. Target is going to be the armature. You know what? Let's go ahead and rename this. Let's name it alien underscore skeleton. Okay, so now it renames it in here also. And the bone is going to be, scroll with your mouse wheel, IK foot. There it is, IK foot.l. So now we grab the IK foot.l, move it. The leg follows along with it. So there we go. And the foot, I believe, let's see what, I can't remember. This needs to be, I think, parented to that. Control P, keep the offset. Then this needs to be parented to that, right? The offset, is that right? Move this, nope. Forgive my memory here. Let's see. Okay. The foot bone needs to be parented to the IK foot bone. So Control P, keep the offset. So now you move that. It moves the foot along with it. But we also need to have this bone parented, I believe, to the foot, right? Keep the offset. Okay. Let's see here. Let me analyze this logically. That perhaps to that. Okay, hold on. Let me pause this and play with it a little bit, and then I'll get back on and tell you what happened. Okay, I figured it out now. Forgive my forgive my lack of memory a second ago. What you got to do is I name these bones incorrectly. So what I need to do is this needs to be IK bone. So it's gonna, let's call it IK ankle for now, and this will be controller foot. I don't know. Undo. Okay. We'll just leave the names the way they are. Okay. What I needed to do is before this was targeting the IK. It was targeting the IK foot, but that was incorrect. So it needs to be targeting the ankle.l. So if you click in here, delete it out, what was in there, and just scroll down, ankle.l. There we go. And then in our hierarchy here, the ankle bone needs to be parented to the foot bone. Keep the offset. And then the foot bone needs to be parented to this IK foot. Control P, keep the offset. So now, you rotate the foot. Oh, okay, also the toe bones need to be parented to the IK foot. Keep the offset. There we go. So now you rotate the foot, like so. The ankle bone follows the foot. And then you rotate the IK foot, the whole thing follows. So that's how it works. So now, when he's walking, you know, he can step forward like so, come down on this heel, and then rotate that back, and then grab his foot and start coming up on his toes like so. So that's how that works. Go ahead and clear that out. Alt-R clears rotation. Alt-G clears the location. Okay, so we got the foot. And now we're going to need to do the hand. And one thing that we need to do is, I believe everything needs to be parented to something. So let's create a master control bone for the whole rig. So if we need to move him around anywhere, we can just move him with this master control bone. So let's add a bone. And let's make it really fat. Alt-S to scale it up, and then let's grab the tip of it and make it really short, so it's like a little platform that he's standing on. So now, let's grab the IK hand, and we're going to parent it to the master bone. So Control P. Gotta make sure I'm in edit mode. Control P. Keep the offset, and let's go ahead and rename this to master bone. There we go. Okay, so now we want the hand. Actually, let's getting ahead of myself. Let's parent all these fingers to the hand bone. Keep the offset. So now we want the hand to follow the IK bone. So what we got to do is add a constraint to the hand. Add a constraint. It's going to be copy location. And we're going to click here, alien skeleton, click here, and it's going to be IK hand. There we go. And also add another constraint. This is going to be copy rotation. Go ahead and minimize that little window. Click here, alien skeleton, and once again, IK hand.l. So now, we move this. Actually, since this is attached to the forearm, it's not going to go anywhere if we move it, but if we rotate it, it'll follow it. Okay, so let's put an IK chain on the forearm here. Inverse kinematics, and let's give it a chain length of 2. Actually, we could do 3 since we got that shoulder bone there. Sometimes you might want 2, sometimes you might want 3, depending on how much you want the arm to move when you move the hand around. So, alien skeleton and IK hand.l. So now, when we move it, the forearm is going to follow it, and since we put those constraints onto the hand bone also is following it. So now, anywhere we move it, the hand will follow. And, like we did on the spine and the neck and the eye stalk, let's put some segments here on this forearm bone. Be right there under deform. Give it about 6 is fine. And you notice it added a little bit of curve to it. So if we move the hand, it's going to follow a curve. We don't want that. We just want it to rotate along with the hand. So kill the ease in, make it all the way 0. Kill the ease out, make it all the way 0. So now, if we move the hand, it still follows. It doesn't bend though. But if you rotate it, then it kind of follows along, which is pretty cool. Now one problem with this is if you bend the arm, if you move the hand in to bend it more than, say, 90 degrees or so, it does a weird rotation here at the elbow. So the way to fix that is grab that bone and pop into edit mode, and you can see that it's parented to upper arm.l. That's perfectly fine. We want it parented to upper arm.l, but we don't want it connected. So just uncheck connected. So now when you go in here and move it around, it doesn't do that weird rotation thing. So Alt-G, clear that out. Okay, so we're getting along pretty well. Grab the hips, move it around. Okay, hands are staying put. And the feet are staying put. Okay. Now we will go ahead and copy this to the other side. Pop into edit mode. Select all of your bones on the left side and all of the bones on the left side of the foot. We don't need any of these center bones selected, so just deselect all those. Okay, it's still orange, but I don't think it's... yeah, it is. So it's, well, it's still blue. Move it around. Okay, for some reason it stayed highlighted, even though it's not selected, but that's fine. Okay, looks like we got our 3D cursor right in the middle already, which is where it needs to be for this next step. And what we're going to do now is we're going to copy this left side over to the right side. So it's got the constraints and everything all set up already, so we won't have to do it all again. So now we'll just turn the viewport, turn on the rotation scaling pivot to 3D cursor right there. So now Shift D duplicated those. You can see that if you move your mouse around. Right click out so it doesn't move it, and we're going to scale, hit S. On the X-axis, hit X on your keyboard, -1. And that scales at -100%. Hit enter and you're all set. However, I guess it did select the head bone even though I told it not to. Tricky Blender. I have to delete it. Anyways, it went ahead and named those bones since it inherited the same names as the left side. Instead of naming it .R like we need it to, it named it .L.001. But there is a way to fix that. Armature flip names. So now it named it .R, as you can see up here. If you select any of these on the right side, named it .R. Awesome. Let's get rid of that extra head bone that we don't need. Select it, head.002, delete, and there you go. So now you can see it automatically set the constraints up. However, one problem is it rotated the bones a little strangely. So in order to fix that, we need to go back into edit mode and let's see if I can find it. I was looking for it yesterday. I couldn't find it right away. I soon gave up, but let's see if I can find it. We need to find something that says X-axis mirror. See if I can find that. Okay. Tell you what, let me pause the recorder and I'll find it and then I'll tell you where it is. Okay, piece of cake. Found it. Feel blind as a bat for not seeing it before, but it's not in any of these menu items over here. It's going to be over here in your tool shelf. So just scroll down and boom, right there, X-axis mirror, just what I was wanting. The reason I need that is because, like I said, when you mirror it over, some of the bones kind of rotate in a strange way. So the copy the pose to the other side. Okay, forgot to turn this off. Rotation scaling back to median point. So now, oops, you rotate, it's going to rotate the way it needs to. As I was saying, if you want to copy the pose over, say he's standing there with his arms down to his sides, you want to copy, right here copies the pose, and say you're animating, you go a few frames up, you want to paste the same pose, you do this one, paste the stored pose. But if you want to copy it over to the other side, you hit this one, and it pastes the stored pose to the opposite side. But as you can see, since the bones were rolled strangely when it was copied over, it doesn't paste it the way it's supposed to. The way to fix that, with your X-axis mirror, go back into edit mode, and select all the bones on this side, like so. There we go. And since X-axis mirror is turned on, I hit Control-R to rotate, and I rotate it. It rotates them all the same way. So if you don't even do anything, let's Control Z so I can show you what it did. Control R, boom. It pops those bones perfectly lined up the way they're supposed to because the x-axis mirrors on. Now you go back to pose mode, you can see that it's arranged the way it's supposed to be. So now, say he's jumping up into the air, screaming bloody murder with his hands and toes all splayed out. Up like so, maybe. I don't know. You don't want to do that twice. You want it to look good. So since we didn't really move any of the fingers around, we don't need to do that. But we did move the toes and the foot there. So let's grab all those that you moved, that you actually changed, copy, and paste. Actually, I must have deselected the hand. Copy, paste. There you go. So now, nice easy way to get a nice symmetrical pose. Okay, so let's clear all that out. Clear the pose. Alt-G, Alt-R. So it's back the way it needs to. And before I go any further, let's grab the eyeball and let's parent it to that eyeball bone that we made. Control-P. And it's going to set the parent to the bone. And for some reason, it popped the eyeball way down here. For some reason, I don't know. Clear out the location and it puts it there. You just gotta eye it, put it back where it needs to go. And it rotated it 180 degrees for some odd reason also. So I guess what it did was when you parented it to the bone, it went ahead and parented it to the tip of the armature. That's probably what happened. So anyways, just move it to where it needs to go. Now you move that bone, the eyeball's going to follow it. Pretty cool, huh? Okay. This is a basic body rig. I've already showed you how to do a facial rig in another Blender Cookie tutorial, so I'm not going to get into that on this part. So, jumping forward, let's go ahead and apply the mesh to the armature, and we'll see what happens. Let's go ahead and grab one of the bones. After you've grabbed the mesh, shift select a bone, Control-P, set the parent to the armature, deform, and let's go with the automatic weights. That should probably give us a nice deformation thing there. There we go. Pretty neat, huh? Nice, easy way to get your model set up on the... I still had the model selected. We just need the bones. You know what? Let's grab the model. It performs a little better if you turn off the subsurf that you have on there, or at least turn it down. Let's grab that. And right now it's set to 2, which is pretty high for just your preview. So just put it down to 1. You can see it moves a little easier. And if you turn it off altogether, it moves really easy. So, oh, there we go. Like I said, the forearm bone has the 3 chain lengths, which move the shoulder blade as well, which is nice, but it's not really necessary unless you're going to do some extreme posing. And then even then, you can just move it by itself. So let's turn the chain length back down to 2. And down to 2. So there you go. Okay. Let's make sure everything moves properly. Make sure the fingers are going to curl. Normally I do kind of an IK setup on the fingers as well, but I'm going to show you a new technique in the next segment. It's called action constraints, and you can control different actions, or you can control the bones using actions. And anyways, I'll show you all that when the time comes. So let's just make sure everything's going to move properly. Let's go ahead and turn back on the subsurf just to make sure it wrinkles correctly. Let's turn on the gimbal here. Right there, and we want the rotate one, and we want to rotate on the normal. Oops. Do that. Let's turn off the properties menu there. And grab the... Okay, looks like it's rotating just fine. Grab this guy, rotate. Okay, looks like the automatic weights work pretty well. Okay. Let's see what he looks like if I move his head around. Good. Move his eyeball. Nice. Okay. And like I said, his hips can wiggle and stuff, so that's pretty neat. Oops, grabbed the wrong. You gotta watch this gimbal sometimes when it's turned on. It's like it has a big selection space, so you gotta make sure you select way to the side if you're gonna be rotating anything. Well, let's just go to front view. Let's move his hands down here. And let's rotate his fingers some. Just kind of a nice, relaxed pose. And let's make that, oops. Come on. Okay. Okay. You know, let's turn that gimbal off now. Like I said, it's really easy to select it on accident. On rotating something, if you just hit the R, if you select it and then hit the R button, it rotates it around the current view. Like, it'll just rotate it as you're looking at it. But if you hit it twice, double tap the R, you can rotate it however you need to. So let's make it about like that. Bring it down a little further. And let's rotate it up just a little bit. Now let's select all these bones here. And let's use that copy, paste the pose. So now his hands are nice limp pose. And there we go. That's a nice basic rig. Breathing in and out. Nice to have that chest there. He's been running or something. Anyways. Okay. So I guess that's about it for a basic rig. And like I said, in the next segment, we will go over some action constraints and be able to control different movements of some of the bones. Like we'll be able to control the fingers bending or like straightening out extremely, like he's pushing down on something and the tip of his finger goes back a little bit. Might also go ahead and throw that facial rig that I showed you already. Might go ahead and throw that on here and show you some ways to create facial expressions using the action constraints. So anyways, that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and I hope you learned a thing or two, and I will see you next time. This has been David Ward with Blender Cookie.